At the same time spake the Lord by Isaiah the son of Amoz, saying, Go and loose the sackcloth from off thy loins, and put off thy shoes from thy foot. And he did so, walking naked and barefoot. And the Lord said, Like as my servant Isaiah hath walked naked and barefoot 3 years, for a sign and wonder upon Egypt and upon Ethiopia, so shall the king of Assyria lead away the Egyptians prisoners and the Ethiopians captives, young and old, naked and barefoot, even with their buttocks uncovered, to the shame of Israel, of Egypt. And they shall be afraid and ashamed of Ethiopia, their expectation, and of Egypt, their glory. And the inhabitant of this isle shall say in that day, Behold, such is our expectation, whither we flee for help to be delivered from the king of Assyria, and how shall we escape? I have read for you Isaiah chapter 20, verses 1 through 6. May God have a blessing to the hearers and the doers of his word. You see, in Isaiah 20, we see a prophet asked to do the unthinkable. Isaiah is told to walk naked and barefoot for 3 years. Not 3 days, not 3 hours, not 3 minutes. For 3 years. To the ancient world, clothing wasn't just about fashion. It was about identity. Your robe told people your rank, your wealth, and your nation. By stripping the captives of Egypt and Cush, God wasn't just punishing them. He was stripping them of their pretenses. Now, Cush was another name for what's now Ethiopia. We come into this sanctuary today wearing robes. Some of us wear robes of success. Some wear the robe of intellect. Some wear the robe of moral superiority. We use these coverings to separate ourselves from one another. We look at a person in the next pew and think, I am not like them. But Isaiah chapter 20 reminds us that when judgment or the presence of God arrives, the robes come off. I remember when I was about, it had to be, I was 7. I think 7. It's in the first grade. I read this book from Disney called The King with No Clothes. And this was a cartoon book. I said it was from Disney. So it was a cartoon book about the lion, the king lion. And he wanted to have this fresh robe, and he didn't like the old one. And so he was being deceived by thinking that they had made this new type of robe that he can walk around, and the people would just adore him because this is such fine clothing, and it just adores him, and it just fits him, and it walks with him. But he couldn't see it. And so he got deceived and said, yeah, you can't see it, but the people can see it. This is the type of fabric that it is. It just can't be seen by the person that it's on. It can be seen by the people that's looking at it. And so he would walk around, parading through the whole kingdom, thinking that he has all these clothes on, but the whole time, he's naked. You see, what had happened was, he was being shown for his true self, not for the robe that was covering up what he was trying to hide. And you see, in the presence of God, that's how you are. You are naked in front of God because the clothes mean nothing. The clothes are a raiment for yourself, because he's looking deep past the physical part of you. He is all the way inside to the spirit of you. And there in your spirit, there are no clothes. And so he wanted Isaiah to be at this low state, this state of embarrassment, because it is a prophecy of what's to come. And so when we obey God, regardless of how crazy it may sound to us, obedience to God is what's necessary. And at this time, Israel wasn't being obedient to God. And so this was necessary. And so now we're going to look at the level ground of the altar. You see, true worship is the great equalizer because it demands honesty. You cannot truly worship God while wearing a mask. When we stand before the holiness of God, we all realize the same terrifying and beautiful truth. We are all equally naked. None of us is good enough to be here. None of us earned our breath this morning. None of us can claim a higher status in the eyes of the Creator. You see, here on earth, in the physical, there are levels of status. But you see, in the kingdom of God, there are no levels of status in God's eyes, because he created each and every one of us to be unique in our own way, to serve a unique purpose. Again, we use the analogy of the body. Each individual inch of your body is uniquely designed and created for its individual purpose. If we was to strip away each individual part of our body, we would get lost because there's too many different parts. What science does is science take the sum of the parts and try to figure out how those sum of the parts work individually, and then try to piece it together to see how they work in unity. But even as they do that, they get lost because they're piecing up different parts to try to put them all together within their parts of the parts. And so if you take your hand, let's take the hand for example. You have the skin that's on top of the hand. You may have a little hair on the hand. You may under the skin, you have, of course, you have the ligaments, you have the muscles, you have the ligaments, you have the veins, and then you go down, you have the fingernails, and you have fingerprints on the other side, and it's all got a whole lot of different parts. And that's just the right hand. And so we're going to assume that the left hand is exactly the same as the right hand, because it's just the same thing, just opposite sides. But you see, because God made everything uniquely different, it's not the same. It's not just flipped. Everything has a uniqueness about it. Each one of us has a uniqueness about us. Even if we have a twin, there is still a uniqueness about us that God can identify to separate the two. And each one has a particular purpose. Even though to us, they look the same, they sound the same, they have the same mannerisms, they use the same hand, they walk the same way, they talk the same way. And It's all seem the same to us. But there's a uniqueness about them. And so once they're stripped of what makes them the same, when they're stripped down to their individuality, you can see it. But see, we can't see it because we didn't make us. God made us so he can see. We are too busy trying to figure out how can we make this right? How can we figure this out? How did God make us work this way? And to tell you how science fails people each and every day, you're still trying to find a cure for cancer. You're still trying to find a cure for Alzheimer's. You're still trying to find a cure to muscular dystrophy. You're still trying to find all these cures. But if you know so much about the body, then it should be simple to figure out.